Chapter 263, Determine Cultivation Level. Friday, 25 September. Zhu Tui has been hospitalized for the 7th day. 7 days after the Year 1 Longhu list ended. It was also the last day of the individual assessment. The 7 days of hospitalization included a bone-stimulating growth shot, a circulation shot, and a growth factor-splitting shot. This allowed Zhu Tui to recover from his injuries very quickly. The skin grafting on his leg had already come to life. Furthermore, it would completely recover in a day or two. It would take another 7 days for his thigh bone to completely recover. However, Zhu Tui could already get out of bed and move around by himself. Of course, he still had to use a walking stick to prevent his broken leg from being affected. As for the problem of taking care of himself, he could take care of himself on the first day he broke his leg with the help of his mind power. Otherwise, it would be as troublesome as it was said to be. It would be a problem to get out of bed. Therefore, Zhu Tui obtained the doctor's permission early on Friday morning and completed the discharge procedures. Of course, even though he had been discharged from the hospital, he still had to make a trip to the medical center every day. He still had to inject the bone growth medicine for a week. Dai Lijian, whose legs had been severed, could not be discharged from the hospital for the time being. Zhu Tui thought about it and felt that he should be more kind and not want to provoke Dai Lijian anymore. As fellow patients, being able to be discharged first was also a slight advantage. However, Zhu Tui was in a hurry to be discharged because today was the last day of the individual assessment for freshmen. If he did not go for the evaluation today, he could take the test in the future. However, the results of the test could not be calculated by the overall ranking. After leaving the medical center, Zhu Tui used his real name to borrow an obstacle-free repulsion wheelchair. It was really inconvenient for him to rely on a walking stick to travel around the school. The obstacle-free repulsion wheelchair could fly up to 1 meter above the ground and maintain a low speed of 25 kilometers per hour. It was very convenient to use in school. 1. In the individual comprehensive assessment, most of the data had already been fixed. After the end of the 3-month-long growth period and the ranking battle, the only thing that the students had to do themselves was to determine their level. When Zhu Tui entered the school, he had already confirmed his student's level. Previously, he had been a mid-grade level C student. The treatment of a specially recruited student was increased by a level and he had reached high-grade level C. However, this level was only valid for 3 months. After 3 months, they would have to reassess their level. After 3 months of growth, the genetic abilities of the newcomers had improved greatly. The determination of an individual's level was no longer as simple and crude as the number of genetic base points activated. That was a last-minute move when a new student entered the school. After the 3-month growth protection period, the level of each student would be determined by 1/5 level of the genetic newcomer. After being tested by the various institutions in the school would determine the genetic newcomer's level of the students. After 3 months of growth, how many genetic ability chains would the students unlock? Was he a level F genetic liberator or a level E genetic liberator? This was the basis for the student's individual level assessment. It was extremely hardcore. However, different ages had different standards. For example, if one was recognized as a level E genetic liberator in the first semester of their freshman year, they would be able to receive level C benefits from the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College. As for the grades of it, that would depend on the quality of their abilities. However, if they were still a level E genetic liberator in the second semester, they would only receive level D benefits. In the second year, level E genetic liberators had become a passing point. One had to activate more genetic ability chains and become a level D or level C genetic liberator in order to obtain better level benefits. So far, the entire Blue Star had a relatively comprehensive evaluation of genetic newcomers. As long as it was a known genetic ability, it could be recognized. Be it combat support type scientific research or even life type abilities, they could be included in the genetic newcomer cultivation level. However, in the past few decades, as individual abilities became stronger, combat and support abilities became more popular and valued. The genetic committee at various levels had the qualifications to determine the cultivation level of genetic newcomers. Of course, as the top university, the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College could complete this series of determination. The process of determination was very simple. It was a display of ability. Some abilities only needed to be displayed. Some abilities could only be recognized with the help of some precision instruments. Comparatively, it was easier for Zhu Tui. Zhu Tui had determined that he had two abilities when his mind power was instantiated. One was low-level instantiation, while the other was high-level instantiation. This was considered two genetic abilities. The requirement for high-level instantiation was to materialize two or more objects that had a certain endurance. The endurance requirement for high-level instantiation was 1 ton. Originally, according to the Mind Concentration Foundation forging technique, one could only obtain the ability of high-level instantiation after activating all the second-level genetic base points. However, Zhu Tui's mind power had been strengthened once after he had been injected with the genetic transcriptional fluid from the Black Crown Queen bee. He could materialize his mind power at a high level very early on. However, he had completed a total of 17 cultivation cycles in the past 7 days. Zhu Tui had been cultivating for the past 7 days in the hospital. That was equivalent to 17 days of cultivation. He improved at lightning speed. He had successfully activated the 23rd genetic base point of the second level of the Mind Concentration Foundation forging technique. He was just short of the 24th one. Therefore, it was too easy for Zhu Tui to confirm these two abilities. He also confirmed his ability to control items. Controlling items was to use mind power to activate the alloy silver pills and flying swords. Those who could control 2 or more objects at the same time and could increase their speed to 500 meters per second could be recognized as having the ability to control high-level objects. Zhu Tui's flying sword was traveling at a speed of over 1,500 meters per second. It was even faster than a bullet from a high-powered electric sniper. It was extremely easy for him to obtain the recognition of these two abilities. Of course, Zhu Tui only displayed his flying speed of 500 to 600 meters per second. He would not display his maximum speed during the assessment. Zhu Tui was not a fool. He had obtained the ability of mental perception at the start of school. According to the rules, if the radius of one's mental perception exceeded 10 meters, one would be able to determine that they had obtained an advanced mental perception ability. Zhu Tui held back a little when it came to identifying abilities. He did not identify the ability as a high-level mental perception. The reason was very simple. If they recognized this, his information would be uploaded to the Genetic Committee's public website. Although it required a certain level of authority to check, and it was said to protect one's privacy, such protection was no different from no protection. Many genetic newcomers used the same method as Zhu Tui to protect their privacy. Mental Chain and Mental Whip are abilities that have long been spread. Zhu Tui confirmed all of them. Of course, it was just a foundation. For example, the ability of the Mental Chain required one's mental chain to be connected to something 50 meters away. As the same as before, Zhu Tui would only display a 50-meter mental chain. As for the fact that Zhu Tui could already send a flying sword 200 meters away, he would not easily display it. The bean-flicking divine power was no longer a genetic ability. Whether it was his initial speed or his accuracy without using his mind power, he could not reach the requirements. What surprised Zhu Tui was that he could obtain an ability that was named Advanced Reaction Speed when his reaction speed exceeded 10 milliseconds. If one's reaction speed exceeded 1 millisecond, they could be considered to have obtained the ability of Super Reaction Speed. Zhu Tui immediately recognized this ability. After all, as the person who discovered the 8th and 9th reaction type genetic base points, it was normal for his reaction speed to be fast. Of course, he would not be stupid enough to register his time distortion ability. In the end, Zhu Tui even made a trip to the extreme branch and determined that he would be able to perform a minor circulation of an energy field. Actually, Zhu Tui was a little hesitant before he verified this ability. His initial thought was whether or not he should preserve the energy field ability so as to add a layer of mystery to his combat strength. Finally, after analyzing it with a Huang, there was no need. As the first-year dragon, Zhu Tui had a lot of videos circulating on the public web. As long as they analyzed it carefully, they would be able to tell that Zhu Tui already had the ability to carry energy fields. Moreover, he had successfully cultivated the first level of the Vira Tide Force field, the Vira Shield. The Vira Shield would be Zhu Tui's trump card for his defense and survival for a period of time. He might as well take the initiative to expose the ability of the Lesser Heavenly Cycle energy field and obtain some benefits. This way, Zhu Tui had gathered a total of 8 genetic abilities. Low-level instantiation, high-level instantiation, mental perception, mental chain, mental whip, advanced reaction speed, super reaction speed, and lesser heavenly cycle energy field. Zhu Tui was not the only one who was shocked. The teachers and students in the school were all shocked. 8 genetic abilities in 3 months. After the school reported it, he would be recognized by the genetic committee and become a level C genetic liberator registered in the entire Blue Star. If he worked hard, he could get another genetic ability, coming up to 9 of it. The level B genetic liberator is already waving at Zhu Tui. When the news spread, the students who knew about it were shocked. Many outstanding second-year students were only level C genetic liberators. For example, Chai Zhao, who was ranked last on the Longhu list in his second year, was only a level C genetic liberator. Zhu Tui was only a freshman. He had only studied for 3 months. At that moment, countless students sent Zhu Tui private messages asking him to share his training experience. How could he be so fast? Zhu Tui expressed that he was only training hard and improving every day. This was the first time he felt that his cultivation speed was too fast. After all, he had hidden several abilities.